Well, thank you for being here. I'm Daniel Reis. Today's talk, or this talk, will be about how to contribute on the technical side. So it's a bit of a quick start. What important things to know to get started contributing to the OCA from a technical point of view. A bit about me. So I'm Portuguese. I live in Lisbon area. I work for Open Source Integrators, which is a US-based Odoo official partner, and I am the manager for the European operation for OSI. I'm also a board member, and also I wrote a couple of Odoo development books. Maybe you may have seen them. And let's get started. So, okay. So who is this talk for? This is for people who have a technical background and like to contribute with code to the OCA, and like highlight the high-level agenda is what do I need to know? So important things you need to know, documentation that you should have a look before getting started. I think an important topic too is what type of contributions I can do, because there are different kinds of contributions that have different levels of difficulty, and you can go gradually on the easier stuff until you are confident, and then you go for the harder ones to get merged. And what's the workflow? So this is kind of like what's the typical steps that I need to do when I have some code to submit. What are the typical steps I have? Okay. Okay, so what do I need to know? So here is a few pointers that are important. Of course, you need a GitHub login. Ideally, you would have an SSH key access, so refer to the GitHub documentation if you don't have that, on how to do that. For the OCA, it's important to have the CLA sign to be able to contribute code, so that's a contributor license agreement. You can find it on the Odoo website. As of today, it still needs to be a signed document that you send over. We'll try to improve that, but that's current state. Of course, it's not required to be a contributor. You don't have to be a member, but please consider supporting the association and becoming a member, or even going further, becoming a delegate and having voting powers on the General Assembly. So deepen your involvement. So you're invited to do this. You're not required to. One particular tool, I talk about it later on, it's to install pre-commit. It will make your life much easier. So pre-commit, who's familiar with pre-commit? Who haven't heard of it? So pre-commit just does basic formatting and checks on your local machine that are also done when you try to do when you do a pull request and it does automatic build. You get a red build. Like, you would avoid a lot of red builds if you have this installed. It will just do the formatting for you. So it's an important tool. And of course, the contributor guidelines, which is an extensive document. So have a look at it. Know that it's there. Have a look at it. Be aware, like, you don't have to read it from end to end. Just navigate on it, focus on some of the highlights, come back to it later on for reference, because it's quite detailed and deep document, but it's very rich. It has a lot of good information. It's a good reference to go back to on how do I do this, how do I fix something. I have this a code review that asked me to change something because it has a security issue, and maybe here there's usually some guidelines on those kind of common things that best practices. It's a collection of best practices and guidelines. So yes, the contributor guidelines. Okay, second thing it's important to know is to understand how the code is organized under the OCA repositories and how the people coordinate themselves. So we have something which is called the project steering committees that are, from a organization point of view, these are the people who are responsible for a GitHub repository or a group of repositories. The people on the steering committees are the ones who have merged merge rights, writing rights on the final branch. There's also people can be maintainers of specific modules and have writing rights for that specific module. They are maintainers. But the project steering committee members have write access across a particular the repositories they represent. Okay, so that's an important structure organization-wise. So they will be the people doing the final click or the final instruction to merge. Then, of course, the code is hosted in GitHub under the OCA organization, and it's organized in repositories that are organized by topic, by application. Some of them, some topics are large, like stock or inventory. There's probably 5 or 6 more focused repositories because there's a lot of modules in that area. But you have sales, you have accounting, you have project, you have HR. So there's by topics. So there's about 200 repos. Not all are equally active. Like some of them are very active, and maybe there's quite a few dozens that are very inactive. But search for the repos based on topic. Okay, so if you type stock, if you type sale, it can log the list of the possible candidates. So when you're thinking, like I'm proposing a module, where does it go? So you should like find what's the right topic, what's the probably the repo that matches the topic, and look at what's there, look at 1 or 2 candidates and decide where's the best place to propose it, where it makes sense, so it gets the similar modules, goes along with similar modules. Of course, we have the same as Odoo. There's 1 branch per major version, and that's like the destination. When you do a pull request, there's a module for 18.0, 17.0, etc., and that's you'll do the merge. That's not different from Odoo's own organization. And about getting help, so we do have the contributors mailing list. I think that's our main channel of communication. If you're stuck, usually people are helpful, will point you away. There's also a Discord app. Some people use it more than others. I don't have a link here, but there's a Discord channel. I think in the event notes, there's a link to the Discord channel. So some people are very active there, and you could get help. Of course, making questions on the pull requests, the discussions on issues, that's also, you'll probably get help. So I believe in general, people are constructive in the feedback they give. So if you ask for like something, someone asks you to do something on your pull request that's not correct, you don't understand, make the question back. So I'm sorry, how can I do that? They will give you they'll give you more details or point you to where you can find more details about it. Okay, what types of contributions can I do? So here is a list. The first is like a 0. It's not really a type of contribution. Is if I plan to write a module or contribute a module, the first thing I should do is, does it exist already, right? Because especially if you're planning to do a module, before you start writing or designing, it's a good idea to research what's out there and then locate it, evaluate if it fits the same need you are trying to fulfill or it's something different. Because the worst thing you can do is spend your time and effort building a module and then proposing and realize that it was already done by someone else. Okay, so you don't want that. So we have like an index. You can find them Odoo/shop. It's a shop, but it doesn't sell anything. It's just an index of modules that you can search. I actually use the search function, to be honest, is not great in the Odoo side. I use DuckDuckGo. They have this accelerate. It's a exclamation mark, OCA mod, and I drive the name, and it searches the Odoo modules. It's a bang explosion. I should have put it there. I don't know if Google search has something like that. I use DuckDuckGo. Exclamation mark OCA mod for OCA model and the name, and it searches on the store. Someone did that that shortcut. The other thing it's important, there's a lot of let's say, gold nuggets hidden on pull requests. So don't search only the finalized, published merge modules. It's worth searching the pull request history for things that people proposed and then nobody reviewed and then they just got closed because they were 6 months inactive. But you might find interesting things searching the pull requests. So the trick there is to identify what's the right repo or a couple of candidate repos that could be fit the topic, and then search for some keywords on the pull requests list. So that's something I usually do because you can find interesting stuff there. Maybe you can rescue our pull request, add some modifications of your own, and try to revive that pull request. Okay. The other thing that's important, and it's a good step to start, is review other people's pull requests, because one of the difficulties people have on getting their code merged is not having reviews. And it's required 2 peer reviews. In some less active, we can do with 1, but officially it's 2 peer reviews to get a module merged. And so if everyone is submitting modules and no one is doing reviews, what happens? You can tell me. Nothing gets merged. So I think a kind of a rule of like good citizenship rule, let's say, you do some reviews and then you're kind of entitled to ask people to review our pull requests too, because this is like a social thing, right? And so start reviewing PRs, and don't worry if you feel, that's the other thing, don't worry about the imposter syndrome. It's not like I don't know enough. You can do a review. There's different kind of reviews. There's code reviews. You can even just test the module. You can any review is valid. So, and there'll be more reviews. Other people might review from different angles. So it's okay. It's not, you don't need to be afraid or don't need to feel, oh, I don't know enough about this, I can't do a review. So usually you could do like your bit of contribution to reviewing something. So review other people, find pull requests, review pull requests, and that will give you credit to ask people to then review yours, okay? Because it's not automatic. Nobody here has a job of reviewing pull requests, so people review what they're interested in or because someone asks them. So you need to earn your reviews, let's say that, okay? That's kind of the not written rule about this dynamic. Okay, so actual things you can do. I believe one of the easiest places to start is to migrate a module, migrate from version from 17 to 18, 18 to 19, because you don't need to worry about the technical guidelines of what to do, what not to do. The module's already written. You mostly interact with the workflows, the steps, the process to get a pull request done and merged. So it's a good way to learn the process without worrying, is my module built according to all those guidelines? It's a huge document or not. So it's a great way to start. So migrate a module. The next thing in complexity is to improve existing module. It's usually a bug fix, submitting a bug fix, submitting some improvement, like a UI improvement, adding a bit flexibility so it can support different use case. The other kind of contributions, which is just as simple as improve documentation. Like you found a module, the README is pretty pretty small, almost unintelligible. You go test it, and maybe you can expand a bit the documentation, what you found, and make a pull request with that. And that's an easy thing to do, and it will benefit someone. It's like a small help. Or writing tests, which is a bit more involved. But it's also a way you're not changing behavior. You won't have pushback because, oh, you're breaking this use case if you do this. You're making life harder for this kind of users if you do that. And writing tests does not change any functionality. No one will be worried about that. And you're just making the module stronger because you're adding automated tests. So those are good ideas to improve. And finally, submitting your module, adding it to the OCA. That's where you'll have tighter requirements. Like people will say, oh, but there's already a module that does this or partially does that, or some people say, but this is too strict, it doesn't cover all these cases. Like, there might be a discussion, a functional discussion around it. There might be a technical discussion, how do you organize the code, about the security that you, so there's a bit more things to consider there. You might have more discussions and have a bit, if you're not experienced with the way the guidelines in the OCA, might take a little more time to get your module fit the general guidelines of the OCA. So I would recommend starting with simpler things, get familiar, and then, of course, you're free to go there and propose your code. It's also a learning experience. But if you get some pushback, expect for that. That's kind of the things you need to be prepared for, okay? Any questions here? Okay. Continue there. So doing code reviews. There, anyone can review. Actually, there's a contributing document, and it has a section about reviews. Okay, so you can go there and review. It's a huge document. So there's a section about reviews, section about migration, section about security. There's how to structure a module. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff there. Things you need to care about, yeah, so security, performance, all of that things. And you can do code reviews, you can do functional reviews, and who's not familiar with runbot? Runbot, okay, so it's not a typo, it's not runbot. So the OCA is not using runbot anymore. You know, Odoo uses runbot. Odoo uses a different implementation, it's called runbot, that it's more efficient for the kind. Odoo has one repo, two repos with enterprise, and a number of branches. We have 200 repos. So runbot doesn't work, it's not efficient. So there's a different implementations called runbot, which does a bit of the same. You can go there and you start your instance instantly, can test the module. So a functional consultant can test a module or test drive a module without having to install it on their own computer, okay? And of course, technical review, it's the same as the code review. So runbot, you'll have on the repos main README, you'll have the first button, the purple button, runbot try me. You click on it, and you'll find something like this, which are all the builds. You'll need to search for the PR number you want to test, for example. And if it's a blue, it's stopped. You need to click on start. If it's green, you need to click on the live button, and you connect to the live instance, and user and password is admin as usual. So there. And the thing is, he's pretty efficient. To start an instance takes like 3 seconds. Okay, so it's much more efficient resource-wise. There's a few that are pinned, but most of them are stopped. Okay. Sorry. On the repository README, on the README, you have these buttons. The first one is the click. You click on the button runbot try me. You get to that page. On each repository, like sale workflow, OCA/sale workflow. On the README, you'll have that. The modules READMEs also all have this button, I believe. So, okay. So that's on the header of the READMEs. Those small buttons. Okay, so how to contribute migrating modules. Things to be aware of is starting there. On each repository, there are pinned issues with a list with kind of the status of module migration, what's in progress, what's not started. So there's these pinned issues. There's migration instructions on the maintainer tools wiki for each version, and there's the recipe on how to do what to do and how to do. Like, you just follow it. It's almost like a checklist. So it's a great document. Follow it when you're doing it. But basically, you need to do a complex git command. You just copy paste it. It has a git command that copies all the history commits to your branch for that module, and then you need to do the pre-commit, just adjusting syntax checking because some small things change on the formatting requirements. It just applies some basic formatting requirements. That's one commit. And then you have a second commit for the actual changes needed to make the module work on the new version. This is all explained in a lot of detail, and it's very well explained on that wiki page. Bonus. So a few guys have built a tool that automates a lot of this. Actually, a couple of tools. I believe the OCA port handles the history migration part, and the migration Odoo module migrator automatically does some changes, like changing tree to list on XML views. This can do that automatically. In older versions, changing the manifest from OpenERP to manifest. There's the tools. There's a lot of, doesn't do everything probably, but there's a lot of things that are automatically done. You don't need to worry, okay? So you need to install that one and then install the second one. Go to the READMEs, there's instructions. I think the second one uses the first as a library, okay? So you can try this. I haven't tried this, and it's really neat. It can do some interesting stuff. So that's kind of like an assistant that can do a lot of automated work for you. Okay, and we have 5 minutes. Workflow to contribute code. So that's the last segment, a bit more practical advice, exactly what to do. So three topics. The Git flow, exactly what you need to do. You need to fork the repo you want to work on, create your personal fork, make your branch, your future branch with the changes you're going to submit, push, create a pull request. It will go through automated tests. You need a green build. And it will require peer review before it gets merged. So it's basically the high-level steps. The Git flow, it might be depending if you're familiar with Git or not. So here is a bit of the highlights of what you need to do. So you need to fork. That's a button on the GitHub repo. You fork on your personal organization or your company's organization. Then you create a future branch, which is, so you would, on your computer, you would clone the repo. Usually, this is my preference. There's different ways to do it. I usually clone the original one. Then I add a remote to my fork, because you can't write on the original. You can only write on your fork. So you do the changes. You create your branch, and you will later commit the changes you did on your computer, and you'll push to your fork. Once you have that, you can create a GitHub pull request from your fork to the main branch. So asking, please merge my changes that are on my copy into the OCA's main version, hosted version, okay? And then ask for reviews. They're not granted. They're earned, requested, and earned. That's the important thing, because you go there, you push a module, you make a PR, crickets, nothing happens. It's because everyone is voluntary here, right? And there's a bit of a social element there. So yeah, you need to work a bit on it. So it's not automatic. We don't have anyone that their job is do review pull requests. And no one likes to review pull requests, meaning everyone likes to make pull requests, but they don't like so much doing with reviews. But we need to do reviews. If no one does it, then there's no reviews, okay? So you understand the dynamics. Good. So there are automated two things that happen on the server when you make a pull request. There are automated tests. Odoo will run automatic tests. All the modules of that repo installed at the same time to make also sure there's compatibility. One module doesn't break another. And the other thing it does all the lint testing and syntax checking. The same thing that pre-commit does on your computer. So if you pre-install that on your computer, so install the pre-commit tool on your computer, when you clone a repo, you need to, inside it, run pre-commit install. When you do that, every time you do a commit, it will automatically trigger the checks. And do like if you did some code formatting, not mistakes, but not aligned with what the OCA has, like big lines, the way you break lines, the parentheses, those kinds of things, it will do it for you most of the time automatically, the formatting. So if you need to run it manually, you can pre-commit run -a, that's all, run on all, and you can do it manually too. But this is a good helper, and it will, if you do this, you won't worry about formatting. The tool will do it for you, so you don't need to worry a lot about the formatting. Okay. If you have red builds on the test side, you can go to the log, pay attention to the log, find where the problem is, and if you try to understand what the error is. Worst case, you might need to run the tests on your local system. And if you pay attention, there's a place where you have the odo command that starts the tests, and you can copy paste that and run it on your machine. Okay, so you could do that. Peer review. Again, make your share of code reviews so that like people are more likely to review yours. This is important. Be ready for feedback. You will get pushback, you will get comments. Your PR will not be perfect the first time, especially if you're beginning. That's part of the process. You need to set our egos aside. It's not about us, it's about that particular piece of code, and like be open to the feedback that's there. Again, you don't need to add features that you're not interested in, that there's limits. So people, this should also do X. Okay, that's fine. If someone else can add that, I have to have, but it's not my scope. So that's also fine. So it's fine to do a bit of pushback, but be open. Read the test logs, find the red build issues. When you, okay, this one is a bit, I think it's not written anywhere. So we don't like to have, we like to have a clean commit history. So if you're doing fixes, don't add a commit to the history. Amend, which is the and I think not some people don't know about this. You can correct the existing commit and then push force. So instead of adding a commit with your fixes, you're just correcting the original commit, replacing one with the fixes already in it, so that it's a clean history. Okay?
Why?
Because it's easier to track changes. If I have one commit has all the related changes, it's easy for me to track what changed together. If I have split around 4 commits, one fixes a typo, the other fixes an indentation, and again, it's a hard time for me to see everything together on the same diff on the screen. And when you're going to migrate versions, like you have this polluted 100 commits history that really are only 10 changes, right? So that's kind of a why. So some people are more adamant about this than not. Like like if you do a change, it's one commit. That's the thing. Okay, that's a simple rule, and it's not too hard if you do this, because if you don't do this, people will ask you to do a rebase and squash commits. That's a bit harder for people who are not familiar with Git. But if you do this, you avoid that. It's like your commits are already corrected. Okay. That's the final one. I'm on time. Good. So thank you. And I'm open to questions. I'm sure there must be a few questions here, things I forgot and to mention. I'm open for questions.
Okay. Are there things within the community that are sort of frowned upon, that you just don't do? And I don't mean socially, but in the code.
In the code.
There's some type of functionality we don't want, or those kinds of hidden rules that are not in the code. But
okay, I think there are a few. Let me think. So one thing people don't like, it's that on the same commit you have changes to more than one module. So if you ideally one pull request is for one module. There are some cases where some things are so tight together you could make 2 or 3 modules go together, but at least you need to make different commits. And the reason why is because when we are migrating modules, we extract the history of that module alone, and we bring it over. We migrate one module at a time. If one commit is mixing 2 modules that on change on the 2, this is harder to do. So that's why that's the reason behind it. The other thing is, people will push back if you overlap or repeat features that are already in some modules. So you do a module and you say, oh, you can already do that with that other module. Okay? And is having duplicate features allowed? It is, but on the same time, we want to converge. We ideally have, if I have this problem, this is the solution. Like if I have this problem, there's 2 solutions and they're just different, but they're just 2 what's the value in that? We prefer to converge to one solution. So people will challenge you. And mind you might have a good answer because this implementation has these pros and cons. The other has pros and cons. For this case, this is better than that. And that's fair, okay? But you probably will engage in that discussion. So that's the, so what else? So these are maybe a few things that are important. There might be, like in the contributors document, there's a lot of guidelines. People push back on things that are security errors. Like if you do direct SQL, you'll have feedback because direct SQL has security risks. So that's a kind of thing. If you do searches inside loops, that's a performance issue. If a good reviewer will push back on you because, like, if you have you know, the O notation, instead of a linear time, you'll have exponential time if you do a search inside a for loop. So, and there's ways to do that, but those are technical, but those are constructive. Like, you don't understand, you ask why, and like you can say, I don't agree because of this. That's okay, okay? So, but I think this, the module isolation, it's important. One thing, it's sometimes there's a module that breaks other, is not compatible with the others. We call them rebel modules. Those are allowed. They go into a list that are tested isolated. But we know those kind of, like one module that creates a constraint that the other models don't support, the general ones, but that's also space for that. I think that's the key ones. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I saw.
You can use the mic.
Oh.
So people on the
I should have repeated the question. So the question here was, what are kind of things that are not written, rules that you would face when doing this, the pull requests? Yeah.
So the other day I noticed a discussion on the mailing list about a payment system, but I'm relatively new, so I didn't really understand it, but it was a pretty heated debate. I was just wondering, is this something that happens often? So if we've been talking about a module that I could create. That's relatively simple for me as a newbie to start working on, and I see a lot of value in making that for my project, so I'm very enthusiastic about it. And I was just wondering how much pushback I will probably get, given that I saw this heated debate on payment, and payment is a pretty important subject, of course, in ERP.
Well, this kind of discussion wouldn't usually hit the mailing list. It would be, you'd have a discussion under the pull request and might have different opinions. That can happen. Some of the topics like escalate a bit, they go a bit deeper. That one had a bit deeper. There were like some technical divergences that were not, like the different groups of maintainers did not agree, and there was a discussion how to proceed, like to ignore the idea, to create another repo to develop the idea, and it's still under discussion. I think it's not something that happens every day. Of course, now and then there's some heated discussions in the mailing list. There's a second one about the licenses, and from time to time, and that's part of the discussion in the community. So so I would say it's not like all modules will have a discussion on a mailing list. That's not. This is a particular, like, even governance issue on how these kind of decisions should be taken. So there's a bit of things behind that discussion. For your PR, you probably have some feedback, and there will be concerns if you're implementing something that's already supported elsewhere. And honestly, sometimes we don't know about them, and then we learn, okay, I am going to have a look at that module. It's already done. Maybe it's a good idea, and maybe I just extend it to add this little piece I need that's not there. So,
Okay.
yeah. Yep, there's another question there.
Mine is really from a strategic point of view. Obviously we are really riding on the efforts of course, Odoo as well. So Odoo is quite aggressive in the way they are
Mhm.
So obviously, just in a few days, there's going to be the launch of Odoo 19. So really, from a strategic point of view, especially in trying to contribute and staying at pace with whatever is happening with Odoo, does one always have to first check with, okay, now what's going on Odoo? Because Odoo does the community platform first, then
Mhm.
of course it has the enterprise. So obviously they're always spinning up new things.
Mhm.
So in the contribution to whatever is going on the OCA, does one maybe have to first double check with what are the new things that Odoo has come up with?
For
Things
sure.
that are missing, are they now in, and and then how can maybe the community generally support each other so that one does not have to waste time
Well,
in taking certain directions before you know it.
yeah. So the reason to have an OCA module is to support a need, a feature that doesn't exist in Odoo. And that can be even different if you're using Odoo CE or using Odoo Enterprise. So if you are using Odoo Enterprise, you go for a community module for something that's not available in Odoo Enterprise. And some people in the community use Odoo Community exclusively, and they will look at the community for something that may be in Enterprise, but they don't want or they can't use Enterprise, and they need an alternative or need to support that feature anyway, so they look at the community. So there's these two visions. So maybe if I use Enterprise, I don't care about those features in the OCA that are replacements for Enterprise features or alternatives. They won't be one-to-one replacements, but I would care about. But there's something for everyone. You look, my wife said, you look always first what Odoo has, and only what it's not there makes sense to be in the OCA. Now, when you migrate from versions, there are features that were not there in one version and were added on the next. Usually, what happens when people work on the migrations, they realize that, and they mark as that model as no need to migrate because that's now a native feature. That happens too. I don't know if this answers your question.
It makes sense. I just wanted to know if that is part of the pattern in contributing, so to speak. And I'm really not necessarily talking about
It's even before this. It's in the motivation, right? Because I'm putting effort. I'm creating a module. Why would I create an OCA model if the feature is already available for me, EE or CE in Enterprise? I wouldn't even do it at my point if I knew there's a feature there already. So the other thing is when people are migrating, they're looking at what's changing in Odoo. They need to be doing that so that you're not migrating something that's already there. So I think that's part of the contribution process. It comes before the technical one, like it's like a decision, should I work on this or not, before I go into what I started to show here, right? Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Okay, no more questions? I think we're good. Well, thank you.